Yes.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the May 24th Costa Mesa Sanitary District Board meeting to order. Madam Clerk, I guess we do the Pledge of Allegiance first. So if you would, please stand, place your hand over your heart and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Madam Clerk, we have the invocation is next.
Thank you, Mr. President. If you'd all reflect with me as we approach the Memorial Day holiday, may we all remember the sacrifices of those who served our country and lost their lives in the defense of our freedom. May the decisions we make this evening be in the best interest of those we serve. Thank you.
Amen. Let's see, Madam Clerk, would you do the roll call now, please?
Yes. Director Brett Eccles.
Here.
Director Arthur Perry.
Here.
Secretary Arlene Schaefer. Vice President Michael Schaefer.
Oops, here.
President Robert Uden.
Here.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we have any late communications?
No, Mr. President, we do not.
And I don't believe there are any ceremonial matters.
Correct.
So we can go on to, do we have any public comments? Do
I
we have
have
any-
not received any written public comments. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak? I have Mr. Mosier with his hand raised.
Yes, thank you, President Uten. I believe this is the moment for non-agenda comments. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm speaking to you this evening from the Newport Beach City Hall, where I'm going to be leaving at half an hour for the Library Board of Trustees meeting that starts at 5. The non-agenda comment I wanted to make is I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but your treasurer, Mr. Mark Davis, and his company at the last Newport Beach City Council meeting were selected over 12 competitors to be the City of Newport Beach's independent outside auditor for the next 3 to 5 years. So you might want to congratulate Mark on that achievement. Thank you.
So he was selected as the auditor?
He is the independent, over 12 competitors. He was selected through an RFP process to be the independent auditor for at least the next 3 and possibly the next 5 years for the City of Newport Beach.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Any other public comment? If not, we'll go on to the consent calendar. There are a number of items. Do any of the directors want to pull any of the items, or do I have a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? I'm following along the agenda on my own computer.
President Uten, I actually had a comment on the consent calendar.
Oh, I see your hand now. Okay, Jim.
Yeah, I just wanted, in connection with item number 5, which is the compensation reports, I wanted to thank Directors Uten and Perry for the written comments that they provide explaining what they learned at the outside meetings. And I also wanted to commend Director Eccles for his restraint in not billing the ratepayers for meetings outside of the normal board meetings. I did have a question about Director Perry's written comments. He mentioned at the April 6th Costa Mesa City Council meeting that there was discussion of redistricting and also claims and demands presented to the city. And I was a little confused about that because I went back and looked at the agenda and all I could see was consent calendar items about that. I looked at the minutes, I didn't see any discussion. So I'm wondering if I should go back. Did I miss something and should I go back to the video to see their discussion of redistricting? Thank you.
I think that was the discussion that was coming up with the final, because census isn't in yet, but they're talking about the census. When they do that, they'll have to look at redistricting.
Thank you.
That was
Thank
the
you.
comment they made.
Okay. I think that answers the question. We can go on now to, there are no public hearings, so the general manager's report. Scott, are you on?
There, okay, yes, I am on. Thank you, Mr. President.
And would you do item 1 about the award?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So the district uses a specific website for managing our new sewer manhole inspection program. The website, as you've seen in past presentations, it's populated to track our manhole covers that have been recorded. And then those recordings are put into the model, the artificial intelligence model that detects the condition of those manhole covers. Unfortunately, the website is a bit time consuming for the users when trying to determine what areas and streets have not been recorded. Sometimes the users will have to check multiple pages on the website to verify areas that have or have not been recorded. So Tanisha's suggestion was a great one, and her suggestion is to use an app called MyTracks, and that will allow the users to plan their routes, or our code enforcement officer will plan their routes, record their drivings, and then they can share their information via email. By tracking the vehicle of our code enforcement during recording of sewer manhole covers, the information from the app will inform the users which areas and streets have and have not been recorded. And the app will eliminate the possibility of recording an area that's already been recorded, and it will eliminate the user checking multiple pages on the website. So it'll make it a little more efficient for us on using the system. The best part is the app is free to download and to use. So that's why staff is recommending the board approve this award of $150 to Tanisha Tingling, our administrative assistant 1, for her rewarding idea.
Do any of the directors have any questions of staff or?
I'll move
Joey,
for
Okay.
approval.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Hearing none, let's see, the preliminary budget. Scott, do you want to carry this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just real briefly, we wanted to let the board and the public know that tonight was the night that the board was going to review the preliminary budget one more time after receiving some directions from the board. However, we decided to delay the reviewing of the budget till your June study session meeting. We're still working on the numbers, and so we feel more confident bringing those numbers back to you in June for discussion. So that's why we just want to make that apparent to the public that we're not speaking about the budget today. We'll do that in your June study session meeting.
Okay. Any questions by board members?
Mr. President?
Director Eccles?
Yeah, Scott, I appreciate you guys looking at this. We keep throwing new curves at you, so thank you. And I think it's a good idea to come back with a complete deal. My question is, at our regularly scheduled board meeting at the end of June, we'll need to ratify this. Is there an opportunity? I'm just, looking into the future and making sure we're prepared. If there's still some tweaks and adjustments after our study session, will there be time, if we needed to have one last little meeting before we officially ratify?
Sure, if you want to, we can have a special meeting if you
Okay.
need to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I never want an additional meeting, but I like to prepare in case we do. So thank
Sure.
you. Great.
Any other board members have input? If not, I think this is a receive and file.
Yes, that is correct, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Yes.
just one other bit of input for the good of the order. If it has to get pushed, I think August 10th is our deadline for getting it to the auditor controller. So it goes on the tax rolls, but we'd have to have a public hearing to impose the charges. So that would have to be thought out and set in advance. But the latest we could go would be sometime in later July, but of course it would be better to do it in June. So we have a little safety valve in case something goes wrong.
Thank you, Alan. Any other input?
As Scott, have you thought about a possible date for that?
No, I haven't. I was just gonna wait till the June study, and you tell me if we think another meeting is warranted or not. So my recommendation is wait till the June study session. If you want another special meeting, we can schedule it then.
Okay.
And Scott, Mr. President, if I could add, Scott, we may want to notice it for a public hearing in June. We can always continue the public hearing and we save the cost of having to republish and all of that if you're not ready to go then, but at least then you have the option of acting at the June meeting or continue it to the July meeting.
It's already been published, so we've already
Okay.
noticed everyone for the June 28th meeting, so we're okay on that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought you had.
Yes.
Is that the cards that we received in the mail?
No, I think the one that recently in the mail was the rate adjustment for the solid waste rate adjustment. So the notice
that's right.
is something we have to post in the newspaper.
Okay. Any other board members have questions or discussion matters? If not, we'll move on to item number 3, receive and file the Government Investing 101 report. And I think this is a presentation by Mark Davis.
Yes, Mr. President, if you don't mind, I'll do the introduction. So this is always a good practice to every once in a while bring this back to the board and have Mark Davis, our treasurer, give you like I said, a investing 101 report on how we invest public funds. And also, as you know, we have a new director on our board, so it would be good information for Director Eccles as well to learn how we invest our public funds. So I am going to turn it over to Mark. He's going to give a presentation, then he'll be available to answer any questions.
Well, would you give him the accommodations that Mr. Mosier talked about?
Him being awarded the contract at Newport Beach.
Yes.
That was news to me too, so I did not know that. So congratulations, Mark.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, board members. And as Scott had indicated, we did this probably about 2.5 years ago. And in advance of next month, we'll be bringing the investment policy to you for your consideration. So he had indicated it's probably a good time to dust it off and run through this again. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. Next slide. So when we go through, I'm going to talk a little bit about what the allowable investments are that where we place our funds or we can place our funds. A tiny little bit on terminology. We'll talk about what your current objectives are, the philosophy, how we go about placing investments, what the current environment is out there, and then really how we look at current environment related to the impact on your portfolio. Next slide. So from the allowable investments, LAIF is one of our allowable investments. This is a pooled fund that all municipalities, special districts can invest money. It's capped at $65 million per agency. In your policy, we currently limit that to 50% of the portfolio can be invested in LAIF. It's highly liquid. I can call LAIF by 10 a.m. in the morning and have however much funds that we need to have withdrawn from LAIF and put into our account that same day. As of May 13th, LAIF was paying 0.33%. U.S. Treasuries, these come in a variety of options. We can invest in bills, notes, and bonds. They're backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. So if there is any kind of default, the feds will step in, and well, we hope there's no default. That means the federal government is going under. But the feds back them, and so they always carry a AAA rating. They are the lowest risk of all the investments that are out there, and with that means that they're the lowest yielding investments. We currently have an unlimited maximum in our policy. Currently, we don't have anything invested in U.S. Treasuries. You can see the rates below as of May 18th. Those are the 1-year, 3-year, and 5-year Treasuries, 0.06, 0.34, and 0.83% at the 5-year mark. Next slide. Most of where we spend, make our investments are in federal agency securities. And some of the more common ones that we invest in include the Federal Farm Credit Bank, Federal Home Loan Bank, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and Farmer Mac. Farmer Mac is fairly new to us. We just have one security that we have placed during this past fiscal year in that agency. Now, these federal agency securities are implicitly guaranteed by the U.S. government. That means that there is a little bit higher risk than a treasury, but if one of the agencies were to have some problems, there's a very, very high likelihood that the federal government would step in to help out. And we saw that with both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in the housing crisis back in the 2008 timeframe. Again, because they're implicitly guaranteed by the government, our current policy allows us to have an unlimited investment in those. And as of May 19th, you can see the 1 year, 3 year, 5 year at 0.25%, 0.40, and 1.1%. So you can see that there's an elevated rate above the treasuries due to just that marginally more risk. Next slide. Certificates of deposit. All of these are FDIC insured up to $250,000. Certificates, they cannot be traded. We invest in those for a specific period of time and earn a set rate. Our current portfolio, our current policy allows us to invest up to 25% of those. The 1 year, 3 year, 5 year CDs range from 0.18% to 0.32%. We currently do not have any investments in certificates of deposit. Right below that is the negotiable certificates of deposit, and these are exactly like certificates of deposit. The only difference is they can be traded. If we buy something, we can trade it, and they're traded on the secondary market. They are also FDIC insured. We limit this to 30% of the portfolio, and the current rates 1 year, 3 year, 5 year range from 0.02% up to 0.95% as of May 19th. Now, we do currently trade in these items. We do keep all of our investments below the $250,000 FDIC insurance amount, so that the risk here is really the credit risk of the bank and how stable the bank is. We have a couple tools that we look at that rate banks for us, and we try to keep any negotiable certificates of deposit that we buy in those tend to be safer rated banks. But again, by staying under the FDIC insurance, if in the event that a bank were to go under, we would be protected for our full investment. Next slide. Bankers' acceptances. These used to be a real common investment in local government 10, 15 years ago. They're pretty rare anymore, and we don't invest anything in bankers' acceptances. They are often used as a collateral type of security in the import-export business. And so our security, if we were to invest in a banker's acceptance, would be the goods that are probably being transported from another country to the United States on container ships. And our only risk is if that ship were to go down and the goods were to be lost, we would probably lose out on that investment. Like I said, it used to be a really good investment years ago in the government arena, but not so much anymore. And we are no longer really investing in those, but we do keep it as an option in our current investment policy. We do limit the amount that we can put. The government code actually limits the amount as well at 40% per the government code and 30% in any single issuer. We reduce that down to be a little bit more conservative at a maximum of 25% of the portfolio and 15% in any single issuer. But the reality is, because we're not investing in it, those percentages are, for all intents and purposes, meaningless right now. Next slide. Commercial paper. These are really good short-term investments, usually they're all in corporations, and the risk is really associated with whatever the credit rating is of the various the corporations that you're investing in. The term is usually from a 30-day up to a 9-month period of time frame. The 90-day rate below is at 0.12%. We're currently not invested in any commercial paper. Being a really short-term type of investment, we believe that that LAIF is a much better alternative to have daily liquidity and actually earning better rates than what the commercial paper could be. Next slide. Medium-term corporate notes. These are, let's just consider to be like a longer-term commercial paper. The California Government Code limits the amount that governments can place that into 30% of their portfolio. We further limit that to 20% of the portfolio with 10% in any single issuer. And the Government Code requires that the corporations that we would be investing in would need to be rated in a category of A or better by at least one national rating agency. And so you can see below for an agency that's rated A1 by Moody's and A by Standard & Poor's, the rates vary from 0.05% on a 1-year medium-term note to about 0.874% on a 5-year medium-term note. We do have a very small portion of the portfolio in medium-term corporate notes. This has happened probably over about the last year and a half as an alternative from a diversification standpoint, rather than just being everything in negotiable CDs and our federal agency securities. Next slide. CalTrust, the board added CalTrust several years ago. We still have yet to put any dollars with CalTrust. They have a couple different pools that we could put money in. They have what they call a short-term pool. And that short-term pool allows us to have next day availability, meaning if I call up and today and would like funds back, I can have funds in the account tomorrow. Rate is 0.02%, much like an account at a bank. Then they have a medium-term pool, which earns just under this environment, just marginally better at 0.03%. But we can only, if we had funds invested in a medium-term pool, we can only add or take away from the pool once a month, and it takes a couple days to get our funds back. So we just don't see this as really being a great alternative right now to LAIF. LAIF giving us the absolutely daily liquidity that we could use just in this current environment a little bit better than CalTrust. Next slide. So some terminology that on occasion when I do the quarterly discussion of the investment portfolio, I'll throw out some of these terms, but just to give you an idea what they are in case you were not sure. If I say coupon, that's really just the interest rate on a security. Par is the face value of the security. Many times we will buy securities at a discount, which is we buy it less than the face value of the security. And then when it matures, we'll get the face value of the security. On occasion, we'll pay a premium for a security, in which case we're really buying that security at a little bit more than the face value. A bullet is that there's no change in the interest from the date we buy it all the way to the date of maturity, and there's no that security is we're guaranteed to have that security for the for the entire term that we have of the investment. There's also a callable security. A callable security is one that can be called prior to maturity. Many of our federal agency securities do have call features on them. And those call features, the federal government puts those in there really to be able to protect themselves in times of rising or dropping interest rate environments. So we do have a number of our securities that you can call. And let's see, step-up securities. Step-up, sometimes the government agencies will structure the interest rate will increase a little bit over time. We do have a couple of securities that have those step-up features.
Mark, can I interrupt you? You're breaking up. Do the other directors, is he breaking up to you also?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
frozen, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, is it,
Not,
must be
now, yeah, now it's good.
the lovely internet connection? Yeah, I gotta love it on
Yeah.
these Zoom calls. So I don't know where I lost you, but I'll continue on. We were at the step up security. So a step up rates can increase over time. We do have 1 or 2 securities that have that feature. They usually start out a little bit lower than the market, and they would step up to much more than the market of a security over time. Purchase date is simply just the date that we buy the security on. Next slide. Settlement date oftentimes is different than the purchase date. The settlement date is the date we actually paid for the security. We may buy a security and not pay for that security for a week, maybe 2 or 3 weeks down the road. So the settlement date is the date that you actually see in your investment report as the date that we actually take ownership of that security. We do have a custodian who holds our securities, and all the securities are held in electronic form. And the custodian, through the very next topic, delivery versus payment, the custodian will receive notification from us that we are buying a security. We give them the details of that particular security. And so we pay the custodian. The custodian will match up what our orders are with what the broker is delivering to us. And if everything's the same, then they'll release the money to the broker. So it's kind of an extra safeguard measure in there to ensure that we're getting what we had paid for. Laddered portfolio. This is really how the maturity dates are distributed over time. And there's charts that are in your investment report each month that shows graph charts that show how our portfolio matures over 1 to 5 years. And that's called a laddered portfolio. So the investment objectives in the current policy really look at 5 different things. We look at the legality of the investment. Is it in accordance with your policy? Next thing we look at is, and these are in order, by the way, that we look at things. Next thing is safety. How safe is that investment that we're going to be investing in to ensure that our principal is going to be protected? Third thing we look at is liquidity. In the unlikely event that we need to get the dollars back out of that investment, how easy is it for us to be able to sell that investment? Then we look at diversification. We try to spread the investments around to a variety of different types of instruments, whether that be banks or different federal agencies or different corporations, so that we don't have all our eggs in one basket. After we go through and we, every time we buy a security, we look at those 4 individual things, then we'll go after yield. So if they meet all those 4 criteria, then we're gonna go try to get the best rate that we can get. Next slide. From a philosophical standpoint, we evaluate the investments just really at the time that we purchase them. The philosophy has been over the years to be a buy and hold investor. It's a very passive investment philosophy where we just buy the security, it goes into your portfolio and it stays there until it either matures or until that security gets called. We're not actively going in and trading to try to bump up the yield in the investment portfolio. It's something we certainly can do. In this environment with rates being so narrow, you would be spending a lot of extra dollars unnecessarily, in my opinion, to go try to get a 0.01, 0.02% increase in your interest rate, and in meaningful dollars from a budget standpoint, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. So we've had a very passive philosophy and just buy and hold. Next slide. When we place the investments in our current policy, we have a restriction in there on the use of broker dealers. This is really just to avoid having brokers, every broker calling us wanting to sell us securities. And so we had limited that to if we actually have live brokers, 1 broker for every $5 million of portfolio. And we have about 20 million. So that would limit us to 4 brokers that we would do business with. And if we do business with those broker dealers, we do send them the investment policy. They have to review, they have to agree that they would only offer us things in accordance with that investment policy. And if we do end up using broker dealers, we would actively contact them for quotes as opposed to just waiting for a broker dealer to contact us. We do have a cash flow tool that we use in conjunction with employees of the district. They will place out receipts and disbursements into the cash flow model, and we'll take a look at that and look at CIP projects and look at timing of certain types of things to figure out what our cash flow needs are. And this is really how we ended up coming up with what we call our revenue dry period from the May through November timeframe, to where there's just no revenue coming in to the district during that period. And so as we approach May each year, we have to make sure that we're pretty darn liquid to get us through those next 5 to 6 months when we get our first disbursements over the annual charges each year. About 3 or 4 years ago, the board authorized the use of an electronic product called eConnect Direct, which is really kind of an electronic broker. And so while we do have the ability to use actual live bodies in the broker dealer side, we have shifted the entire portfolio to eConnect Direct, to where we're making all of our investment decisions on our own. We get to see everything that's out there. Whereas when we deal with broker dealers, we're only looking at what they are going to show us and what they're going to share with us, and not everything, all our opportunities out there. So the use of eConnect Direct has been a great tool for use of the district to allow us to be able to place those investments electronically. Next slide. So the current environment, once a quarter when we do have our breakout, we talk about what is going on with the interest rates. Today, the Dow closed up 186 points at 34,394, and that is up from the beginning of the year 3,788 points. So at the beginning of the year, we started out at 30,606. So we've seen the Dow go up 12.4% from the beginning of the year. On the other side of that, and that's the stock market, which we can't invest in. So on the other side of that, we look at the treasuries and where treasuries are trading. And today, all the treasuries, the 3-month closed at 0.02%, the 6-month at 0.03, the 1-year at 0.04, 3-year at 0.32, and the 5-year at 0.82. That's more in line where we're going to be looking at when we go to place our investments. Your portfolio as of April 30th was earning 0.572%. Next slide. So I talked about we're prohibited from trading in stocks, and most all of our investments are fixed income securities. All of the federal agencies that we invest in, the negotiable certificates of deposit, all fixed income securities, and they really go, the market value of those really goes in opposite direction to the stock market. So on the stock market, when we see stock prices go up, we'll see the bond prices or the fixed income that we can invest in, those prices will tend to go down. When stocks go down, then bonds go up. And likewise, there is, because the securities that we invest in are fixed income and we have a buy and hold philosophy, when we do see interest rates go up, that means the market value of our securities do go down. And when rates go down, then the market value of our securities do go up. Market value is just that, it's just paper gains and losses. Because we're not actively trading, we don't realize any of those gains and losses. They just stay unrealized. But we do report to you once a month what the market value of the portfolio, what the portfolio is. Next slide. And that really brings us to the end of kind of this high-level government walkthrough. We will be bringing back the investment policy to you next month with a red line version for any suggested changes. Should there be any changes in the government code that would require us to take a look at, let alone any changes in philosophy that you all may have when you adopt that policy. The policy is good for a one-year period, and government code does require that the investment function is your responsibility unless you delegate that for just a one-year period. And with that, I'm available for any questions you may have regarding how we go about placing investments and the district's investing program.
Do any of the directors have questions?
Mr. President,
Director Eccles?
Mark, just, and I don't know how best to phrase this, but in terms of liquidity, I know we got to be pretty darn liquid. On a scale of 0 to 10, I mean, where are we at currently with liquidity? And
Sure. The portfolio on average right now is invested out on average about little over 2 years in duration. But from a liquidity perspective, if you think about that ladder that I was talking about and how some items mature year over year, we kind of have almost a U-shaped. We have a high liquidity in the 0, 1 to 2 years. Then we go down in those middle years. Then we have a lot of investments out at the 4 to 5 year mark to try to pump up the yield, if you will, on the portfolio as a whole. But right now, in that 1 year time frame, we have about 42% of the portfolio matures within a year or less. So it's pretty darn liquid. We will see that drop as we go month over month from now until November. We're going to see that go down and see that approach that 20% mark because there's no money coming in and we got a lot of money going out.
And then just one more question. This past year versus, say, I don't know, last several years, how's our overall portfolio performing?
Sure. We have in the investment report itself, which you approved in the consent calendar, there is a chart on page 3, I think, of the investment report, and it shows the lifetime rate of the district's portfolio. And when I say lifetime, it's only from the time that the district separated from the city. It doesn't go back into when everything was commingled with the city. So when we separated at that time, we were earning about the 3.5% mark, and rates had gone up over the next 2 or 3 years up to about 4.5%. But then the 2008 happened with the housing bubble and the tech bubble, and rates just dropped all the way down to about 0.5%. We saw over the last 7 years or so a good increase in rates, but when COVID happened, they just pulled the rug out from under us, and so everything has just dropped.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Do any of the other directors have questions? If not, thank you very much, Mark. With that kind of report, I'm sure Newport Beach will be very happy for you to be their auditor.
Thank you very much.
Let's see. Next is approve of the auditor engagement letter. We've had I think we've had an auditor for the past couple of years, and we have the ability to extend it. Staff is recommending that we extend it over the next, I think, budget period, June 30, 2021 through 2022. Is that correct, Scott?
Not exactly, Mr. President. This is not Caitlin, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not for a contract extension. This is an engagement letter that we have to do every year to the board. It's just something that we present to the board every year. I'll let Caitlin give more details of what the engagement letter is and why we do it. So I'll turn it over to Caitlin.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. Mr. President, you are correct. We are extending the 2 years contract with Tiemann, Ramirez, and Smith. However, this report is to present to you the engagement letter from the auditor The fiscal year 2021 is coming to an end. In the preparation of the fiscal year end audit, the audit firm Tiemann, Ramirez and Smith has issued an audit engagement letter disclosing their responsibility under the U.S. generally accepted auditing standards and the government auditing standards and the state controller's minimum audit requirements for California Special District. This audit is scheduled to begin on October 4th this year, and the report will be issued towards the end of the calendar year. This is the 4th year TRS will be performing the audit for the district. The cost for this audit is $10,000, which is a good deal. If we go out to RFP, probably will be 20,000. And that's the end of my report.
Okay, do any of the directors have questions of Caitlin or Scott? So this is, we are
Just receive and file, I believe.
what is the required action? Receive and file for tonight, and this will come back to the board. No, this is the board meeting. So we have to.
Is this an action item,
You
Caitlin?
are approving this engagement letter.
Yeah,
There's
okay,
definitely responsibilities on the board's behalf, which the auditor has spelled out for you. And we've also agreed to abide by the standards as Caitlin has outlined them. So this is an approval.
okay.
I'll move for approval.
I was gonna move for approval of the investment report and to receive, or the engagement letter and to receive and file.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we can go on to the engineers reports. Scott, is Mark going to lead this, or?
Yes, this report will be done by Mark.
And it's a new type of presentation. So Mark, go ahead.
All right, thank you. I guess in the sake of brevity, I'm happy to just move to the end, or if you'd like, I can go through each of the projects. I'm here at your pleasure, Mr. President.
Do any of the directors, has everyone read it and are willing to go forward with it? It's a receive and file.
I'd just like to hear more about the president's pump station, how we're doing there. That's the only thing I was.
Happy. Would you like me to proceed with a more in-depth discussion, Mr. President, on President
Yeah.
Pump Station?
Oh, yes. Yeah, you and I took a visit there the other day. So tell him what you told me.
Maybe I'm getting older, but I don't always remember. So let me start at the beginning. Let me say that the project started in February, and we started out like gangbusters, and the contractor's been doing a very good job. We've installed the wet well, which is 20 some odd feet deep. We've installed the valve pit. We have now installed most of the buried electrical conduit. We've installed the retaining wall. We're to the point where I think in the next week or two, we'll probably do some paving, install, I guess, a short wall to put chain link fencing on. And then at that point, depending on whether Edison is ready to install a transformer or not, we may have some issues there. But that being said, we've run into some snags, and I think most of it is resulting from the pandemic. For example, PVC pipe. Turns out there is a shortage of the resin used to make PVC pipe, C900, SD35, SD36. Those are all designations of certain types of gravity PVC sewer pipe or pressure PVC pipe. We've had delays from our electrical subcontractor. And so we will likely have to extend the contract in order to deal with some of these. The latest being that we have been trying to contact and schedule the installation of the new Edison transformer with Edison. As you might recall from the project, we are moving because of the new pump station, because of our standards, because of the age of the old President's pump station, we're moving from a lower 240 volt to a higher 480 volt transformer. It's more reliable service, less expensive utility bill, and it's just a better, more efficient way to operate the station. So as part of the design, we updated to this higher level of service. Unfortunately, we have had really horrible luck the last 4 weeks or so trying to schedule this. We're to the point where our general manager is going to contact Edison. We do have now a phone number for a supervisor, but needless to say, depending on what Edison comes back with, I'm expecting that we're going to see some delays, and I'll have to extend the contract accordingly, because it isn't the contractor's issue they can't control Edison. And in fact, we can't control Edison. So the biggest issue we're having right now is with Edison and scheduling when that is. And so as soon as we know when they can install the transformer, that will dictate when we complete our project. Now, what are we waiting for? In order to take the old pumps, or first of all, we got to finish everything, energize the new pump station before we can take the old pump station out of service. To do that, we need the new electrical 480 volt system. If we can't take the old pump station out, the contractor cannot finish his work removing the old station and converting the old station into an overflow. And that's a major part of our work. I'm going to say it's probably 35 to 45% of the work is in that last maybe 35% is in that last scope of element. So until we figure out that date, I don't know what the impact is. So that being said, the contractor may have to stop his work and move on to something else, then come back after we get a date from Edison. In order to minimize the impact to the public and to the city of Costa Mesa, I am currently talking to the contractor about opening up the access to the park. If we can open up access to the park late June, early July, I feel like we'll have a minimum impact from these delays. But that being said, as soon as I know more, we will fire off a correspondence to the city of Costa Mesa, inform them, and then we will let the individual neighborhood know what's going on with the project. But that being said, I do not anticipate that we're going to make the June 30th completion date. I think it's going to be late August, early September at the earliest, but I don't even know that right now. So Director Perry, do you have any other questions, or did I answer your questions?
You answered more questions than I needed, but that was a great presentation. Because I know the residents in that area, that's in my division, they want to get to that park as soon as possible.
Absolutely, and that's why we're trying to negotiate a partial opening of the access to the park. So for example, what we may do initially is say that park access is closed between Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and then it'll be opened in the evenings and on weekends. So that's one option that we're currently negotiating with the contractor, so that we could at least partially open up, safely open up the access to the park.
Okay, now thank you. That sounds good.
Do any of the directors have any other questions on?
Hey, Bob, this is Mike. I have a couple of questions for Mark,
Okay.
if it's okay. Before I give my questions, could I ask that whoever the participant is on the telephone that ends in 3760, could they please mute we're getting some feedback on that line. So I'm not sure who that is, but if they could mute, that'd be
They have
appreciated.
muted. They've muted Mike.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Hey, Mark, couple of quick questions. First of all, I like the addition of the rainfall item on your report. I mean, that's something that we sometimes get caught off guard with on I&I, and I appreciate you putting there. That's the first thing. Second thing is under the miscellaneous information. I have lived in Costa Mesa since 1958. Where the heck is Norse Drive?
You know, I looked it up when the homeowner contacted me, but I'd have to be honest with you, I'm still learning the service area, and I would
Okay.
have to do a Google Maps to tell you. But I believe it's towards Newport Beach side of our.
I
of our-
wondered, okay.
our,
Yeah, I, there's so many new streets going in. I thought maybe I missed one, but that's fine. And then kind of the last question is, on all these projects that we're doing, you kind of hit on that item about the PVC and the composite, the chemicals and things about PVC. It got me to wonder a little bit about on all of our projects, we have change order. I mean, we have a limit on our change order, what the contractor can ask for a change. With the overwhelming increases in construction materials, do you anticipate any projects that we're in the middle of that could be an issue with increased costs in terms of materials?
I guess what you're asking is there a concern that due to the pandemic and the delays of bringing raw materials or even finished materials over from Asia or Europe, or things that are stuck in the port, or a shortage of even US supplied materials and services and goods, if we might expect some increases in our contract prices? At this point, I'm gonna say no. I will say that I and Scott are doing our best at negotiating with the contractors when things came up. For example, on the 19th Street project, which was awarded last month by our board of directors, I've given notice to proceed. The contractor is starting to submit shop drawings on. What he realized was that he cannot find any of the specified PVC force main material. We asked for a C900 that has rated for 200 pounds of pressure per square inch of pipe. And we found that it would be October, November, maybe even December before he could obtain that pipe. So in order to, I'll say, minimize or eliminate potential claims with delays, and because we really don't need the 2000 or 200 PSI pipeline because of the pump pressures that are produced, we actually went to a lower pressure pipe, which our contractor found some available pipe, the amount of pipe that he needed for this job. So we were able to, I think we're going to get a little bit of a credit. And from the piping perspective, it really will do the job for us. Is it the pipe that I'd like to see in there? No, but it reduces our cost, it meets our schedule, and reduces the potential for any claims or increases or change orders associated with that particular item. But Scott and I are dealing with this on all of the little things that pop up here and there. But I will say, President's 19th, we have been able and successfully, and the other projects like the manhole rehabilitation project and the manhole frame and cover project that will probably be finishing up this week, we have been successful at staying within the 10% that the board has provided me and Scott to work under. So far so good is a bottom line answer.
Okay, I know in my industry, we're seeing a tremendous increase in rebuilding costs for raw materials. It sounds to me like with us, it's more an availability of product than it is a cost of product. Is that kind of what you're looking at?
Yes and no. I will tell you that we recently opened bids for Iowa pump station, and our engineer's estimate I thought was pretty good. I looked at RB Hamers and Associates engineer's estimate, and I thought it was conservative. But what I didn't realize is that about 2 weeks earlier, and because I don't watch the commodity markets every day, I didn't realize that the resin for PVC wasn't available in this country. And so we missed an opportunity I guess, readjust the engineer's estimate. So we did, I guess I'll say we were the low bid by not much, $7,000 or so, more or less. Don't hold me to that exact number. But if you do need that number, I'm happy to look at it and have Nolani send it to you. But I'll say that project ended up being higher than we thought it was going to be. And I think that's we're starting to see the higher prices associated with the lag in availability of material supplies and goods for our projects. And in fact, I meant to talk to Scott. Well, I am going to talk to Scott tomorrow, but I did talk to our consultant. I'm thinking on our next project, which might be either Avamore, Terrace, Force Main, or we do have a rehab project, pump station coming up for a rehab for a pump station coming up. One or the other, I may hire an actual construction estimator to help us with this next estimate, because I don't want to be the low bid again. And usually the estimators are better than engineers at keeping their pulse on the market. But I will tell you that we are starting to see prices creeping up, and we got caught a little off guard with Iowa. But I'm trying to make steps to account for that in the upcoming engineers' estimates.
I appreciate those answers and that effort. It really is appreciated, Mark. Thanks.
Mark, I have a question. The instrumentation panel at President Pump Station, wasn't that an issue? Has it shown up?
No, it has not shown up. And right now they're saying it's going to be mid to late June. We do keep calling the panel manufacturer, and we're hoping that we can get it here earlier. But if Edison says they can deliver the transformer and install it in June, you're right, the panel's going to be the weakest link, and that will be the item that delays the overall contract. But if it comes in late June, I think we can easily do the work within the extension that we have granted the contractor to date. I gave them, I think it was a 7 or 9 week extension based on a couple of things that have already occurred. There are no cost extensions, so they didn't impact the budget or the contract amounts. But that being said, you know, we're doing our best to manage this, President Newton.
Any other questions for Mark?
Mr. President,
Director Eccles.
I actually think I can answer Vice President Schaefer's question about Norse. Small little cul-de-sac street, east side, right behind Brentwood Park off of Santa Isabel is the Norse that I'm thinking of in my division.
Oh, that is in your division?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, thanks for being there.
Hey, I could answer one question a meeting, so perfect.
You're doing good, buddy. You're doing good.
Director Eccles, thank you for that, because I'm still don't know where all our streets are here. I'm still learning that.
There you go. Sounds good. Thanks, Mr. President.
All right, are we ready to move on to treasurer's reports? Mark, do you have any additional report?
No, I do not. Thank you, Mr. President.
No, I'm talking about the other Mark,
Oh,
the financial guy.
No, nothing else this evening, Mr. President.
With the label Mark 1 and Mark 2. Okay, Alan, do you have an attorney? Do you have? There are no attorney's reports, are there?
Mr. President, I'm sorry. Secretary Schaefer looks like she's trying to make comment, but she's muted. So she just needs to unmute her mic.
Mute. You know, I've been trying to say, I'm here all through Mark, and I couldn't. Anyway, I'm here. I've had electrical problem.
We see you.
Sorry, I have electrical problems, but it's solved.
Okay, thank you. Alan, do you have an attorney's report?
No, Mr. President, I have no report and I have no comments tonight. Thank you.
Okay, then we go to local meetings. You know, I get to start off with the Operations Committee and Orange County Sand District board meetings. They were long meetings. They have a huge number of issues to deal with. They start off with having to purchase a whole slew of collection systems, odor, abatement chemicals. They have a lot of engineering contracts updates, and several collections and plant system rehab projects that they're dealing with. One interesting thing is they have an approval list. They have 18 consultants, design and planning consultants on a list that they approved for the engineering department to do small projects with. And Mark used to be in charge of small projects. Each of those consultants can do a maximum of $600,000. They can do 10 $60,000 projects or one $600,000 project. There's 18 of them, and that means $12.8 million of their budget can be allocated for a rigorous criteria, through a rigorous evaluation criteria to those 18 consultants. They are constructing a new headquarters. And just a myriad of projects that they're working through that I get to view on the operations committee or their board meetings. Next, we go to Director Perry on the SARFA meeting.
Yes, the meeting's on this Thursday, and I'll write out the report like I do with all the other meetings I go to.
That's a quarterly report, isn't it?
No, well, this meeting is a quarterly report, yes, meeting, but my report will be for all the meetings I attend in the month.
Okay. Secretary Schaefer for the ISDOC report.
You'll need to unmute yourself, Secretary Schaefer.
Arlene, you're muted.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, on the ISDOC meeting that we had, we were talking about all the people that are running for office. Seat A is up, which is Joe McKenzie's seat. And she's very experienced and been on it a long time. And there's 9, counting Joe, that are running for this office, which is the most we've ever had, which is something. And it's already closed now, and we should have received our ballots so that we can vote on somebody. And then what happens is on July 19th or the 20th, we'll count the ballots, and then the people will find out if they won or not. But right now we have to get the voting in if we're doing it. Do we have the ballot now, Nalani?
No, Madam Secretary, we don't receive the ballot until May 26th.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess we'll just wait then. Nothing we can do on that.
We will
one.
have the ballot on the agenda for June.
Okay, that sounds okay. Okay, and then on, let's see, what else? I did a Zoom meeting on the ISDOC meeting. And of course, we talked about mostly the luncheon that was coming up, which we had the airport people, which turned out to be Rick Francie, and he was excellent. And then we highlighted somebody too from one of the districts, and so that was good. And then on, let's see what else, Ledge Days. I don't know how many of you attended Ledge Days, but we had it for 2 different days. And that was really good. We got to meet the people that are up in the Capitol and talk to them and have a better understanding of special districts and what we're standing for. So that was great. And then I had a finance committee meeting, and the finance committee is doing really good. So that's, everything's wonderful on that. And on the 13th of April, then we had our study session. The executive board and the board meeting was on the 19th of April. And that was on Zoom because I didn't go up, and most people were there. And on the membership for CSDA, we now have over 1,250 people that are members, which is great. That's very exciting, you know, as far as the different special districts in California. And then I attended the CAC meeting, and that was interesting because I hadn't been there for so long. Then there was an environmental committee virtual, which was really good. I don't know how many of you attended that, but that was worthwhile. Good job. And then there was a public hearing, and then ISDOC had their lunch meeting I told you about. And so that was about it. And so everything is going along fine. I'm going to be flying out to Sacramento next week, I guess it is, the 8th and the 9th. And there's a couple of meetings up there. And I'm the only one that has, besides Vince, that hasn't been in person. So I thought, you know, I better start doing that. So I'll see how that goes. And that's it.
Thank you. Vice President Schaefer is a Special District Risk Management Authority.
Nothing really to report other than for the benefit of staff and Caitlin for your budget. We have a special board meeting on June the 3rd to finalize the rates that we're receiving for our reinsurers. So that should be wrapped up for you probably within the first week of June. And hopefully it won't be too painful, but it is going to be somewhat painful. So you can expect that.
Is it going to be by Zoom?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Oh, okay.
Okay, other meetings qualifying for reimbursement. I attended the Waco meeting, and the reason I attend the Waco meetings is because there's a discussion on water issues and the drought and the state regs on residential water usage. And this month, a lady from San Diego discussed a wide range of water issues, including desalination, and she gave gave some costs for the different types of water, and desal was, of course, by far and away the most expensive cost per acre foot. And the reason that I go to that meeting is because as the regs are being tightened on residential usage and to keep up to speed on the drought, and both of those things affect our sewer flows. And there's also some discussion now on the sanitary engineering side about whether the sewer flows are too low, and that has impacts on sewers and the odors and corrosion. See, I don't charge for the Orange County Sand District meetings. Any other directors have meetings that they need to report on for reimbursement?
Yeah, Bob, just real quick. You and I and Scott had an opportunity to meet with Senator Min and his staff during the last month. And Scott, I don't know if you have anything to contribute, but I thought it was a really beneficial meeting. I think Senator Min and his staff have a much better appreciation for what we do as a special district. I got the feeling he was fairly familiar with special districts and the services, especially being an Irvine and Irvine Ranch Water District affecting him. But I thought it generated some good awareness on his part and on his staff's part. And I noticed earlier, I'm not sure he's still with us, but Senator Min's chief of staff was actually on our meeting this evening. And I think that's a good step to have our Sacramento officials participating in our meetings and our ability to speak with them on a pretty casual basis, I think. I thought it was a really good meeting, and I appreciated that opportunity to meet with them.
Yeah, and I think also we introduced him to, and he'll take a look at 1383, the effects of the organics processes,
Mm.
and we invited him to look at one of the SEPA presentations, and I expect his staff probably have. He's more aware of the speed with which the state is going to make the cities apply that regulation, and there's going to be some downfall, or the sanitary district's going to have to do some planning. I think we're way ahead of the curve with our organics program than some, but there's still a lot of pretty onerous requirements by the city. And the city will be required to monitor what the sanitary district is responsible for doing. The city will be needing to levy fines in a way that they've never done in the past, nor has the state done. But this is a regulation has come out of the climate change interests. And so it's going to be the Air Resources Board who will actually push fines, and they're not bashful at all about, they're the one agency that I know of that's not bashful at all about going after cities that are not meeting that 1383 regulation, and it's coming up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Any other meetings that directors need to report on?
No.
If not, are there any oral communications and directors' comments from the meeting?
Bob, I'd like to make a comment if I may.
Sure.
Earlier this evening, a member of the public, I think, unfairly criticized several of us board members who attend meetings on a frequent basis. I don't think it was fair to categorize those of us that attend more than just the board meetings. It's not having any restraint. I think the comment was made that he congratulated, and I'm not picking on Brett at all. I mean, I understand we all have what we need to do, but I don't know. I don't think it's fair to say that because I went to 9 meetings in the month of April, but I only got compensated for 6 of them as me showing no restraint in going to meetings. I think that's unfair, and it's also incorrect. I mean, and Bob, you just said it, every meeting that we attend is an opportunity for us to help us do our jobs as sanitary district directors better. I don't go to ceremonial meetings. I don't charge for several meetings that I go to because I'm compensated somewhere else. So I show a lot of restraint in what I choose to attend. And I think my colleagues on this board do the very same thing. You know, we're not going to ribbon cutting ceremonies and societal functions and then charging the district. We just don't do that. So I congratulate Brett. I know out of all of us, Brett's probably the busiest guy because he's running a company. You know, there's 3 of you that are retired, and I'm semi-retired, and Brett's the hardest working guy in the board. So maybe he doesn't have the opportunity to participate in the things that some of the others of us do. And but I still don't think it's a judgment on the other 4 of us as not having any restraint in going to these meetings. So again, I just thought that was an unfair characterization of the 4 of us that attend more than just a couple of meetings.
Do any other directors have oral communications or comments?
I'd like to make a comment.
Okay.
You know, it's interesting because I know that the governor decides how we can get paid. Like, we're only allowed 6 meetings a month. The water district gets 10. And when we went to the governor once and said we were attending all these and we're trying real hard, and at the time that governor that was in, this was a few years ago, said, no, we're still going to just give it to the water district, the 10 meetings. So we just, I myself will do 9 or 10 meetings and that don't get paid for. But at the same time, I have to do these meetings because it helps me with my different jobs that I do. And I'm doing a lot of things up in Sacramento representing us in our community. And I don't see any harm in that. And it's too bad my iPhone wasn't working at the time. I would have liked to talk to this person, but anyway, I just wanted to make that comment.
Any other directors need to make oral communications or director comments? If not, I thank you very much for your participation, and I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Night.
Mhm.
Night all.
Night.
Night.
Good night.